Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the greatness of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas and the surrounding areas. People, places, experiences. Hot Springs Village is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we engage in weekly conversations to explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village. The award-winning RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village is the largest real estate office inside the village with over 30 full-time agents and support staff. Visit them to learn more about this beautiful place to solve your real estate needs. Call them today at 1-800-364-9007. Find them online at explorehsv.com. They are RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village at 1-800-364-9007 or online at explorehsv.com. Ike Eisenhower State Farm. Ike and his award-winning team have been serving the insurance needs of folks all around Hot Springs Village since 1998. Ike has qualified for State Farm's President's Club, Chairman's Circle, and Hot Springs Village Insurance Agent of the Year. Call Ike Eisenhower State Farm today at 501-984-4100. That's 501-984-4100. Find them online at ikeeisenhower.net. Call them today for all your insurance needs because, like a good neighbor, Ike Eisenhower State Farm is there.
This morning with Mr. Mike McMillan, and it seems like at Brookhill Ranch, we need to know, what does it take to make a happy camper, Mike?
Our family started Brookhill Ranch in 1964, and our founder, Hetty Lou Brooks, her vision was fun, connection, and Jesus. And what can we do to establish the funnest environment that kids can come to? She started with 7 campers back in 1964. We're now at 3,000, just finished our 60th summer, 49 states. And we, as a family, and our team, which is now 15 full-time on the ranch, that's supplemented by another 400 during camp to host all of that. And we do all that we can to make sure the kids have fun. So the complex is beautiful. The cabins, the shower houses, the kitchen, all the things that we use, the recreational pavilions, are in absolute excellent condition so that those kids can come play. They can have fun. We can then build connections with them and provide salvation to them, at least a path to salvation. And so we have archery, we have horses, we've got 26 plus different activities that we ask the question all day long. I've got a big project I'm working on now for this next summer to make a happy camper. We drive everything we do to answering that question. The staff that we hire, how hard we scrutinize that staff, the length of time we've known them, to try and answer that question 365 days out of the year.
You know, we got a chance to see Ricky Skaggs the other day in concert, and he had a great quote. He said, you know, in the olden days, he said, we used to think the way to bring people to Jesus was to hang them over hell with a shaky stick. And I thought, the times have changed. It really is. You know, it can't be driven by fear, but it can't just be all fun too. I mean, there's a lot of education, but I love the way that you talked about it. You have to make connections first, right?
Absolutely. And it's a simple gospel on our side because we don't want to get into the dogma arguments of, well, the Methodists and the Lutherans and the Baptists we can't get into all of that because all of those different organizations believe that Jesus is the way to salvation. So we preach a simple message, encourage kids to go home and get plugged into a local church. And they come out here and they have a great time. They get to be kids, which in today's society is so hard to do, specifically coming through like a COVID type of era when schools and the world was locked down and they couldn't interact with their other kids. You and I have the adult ability of turning the news off and taking a walk and getting away from the distractions of the world. And little kids don't. They don't know what it means to go out and play and get in the dirt and be a kid.
Well, and you said, what, 26 different activities? Is that what I heard?
Yes, sir.
I didn't hear Xbox or PlayStation, or that wasn't any of the ones I heard. Is that no?
No, none of those. We're in the water. We're riding the horses. They're shooting the bows and arrows. They're fishing. We intend on specifically on our fishing. We stock a family pond and we cut cane poles so that those kids have the experience of an old fashioned cane pole fishing scenario, because they don't do that, nor do they know what an Andy Griffith type image is.
Yeah, it's not just that though, but there is a lot to be said for, new super high tech carbon fiber poles and whatever. But there's a lot to be said for a cane pole that you really feel it on the end, and you're like, oh my God, I've got something. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
That's correct. That's correct.
I can't help but wonder, growing up as a country kid like you, we know what the world is like, and we have Airbnbs here, and people will ask on a regular basis, well, can we swim in the lake? Can you swim in the? Of course you can swim in the lake.
That's right.
Why would we not have a lake? What do you mean, can you swim in the lake? Are there only certain places no, you can get it anywhere. But it's nature. It's not an amusement ride. It will bite you. So
That's
you
right.
have to
That's
have a
right.
healthy respect for it. Do you, is that something you have to kind of teach people?
Oh, absolutely. One of our activities is the nature activity. And they go out and they build fires and they identify plants and they take nature walks. And we talk about the ticks and the chiggers and the bugs and the red wasps and all those things. And we mow the paths and do all those things. But the areas that they walk through are used for agriculture. We have cattle there, we have horses there, we may produce hay there. And so letting it run wild and it not being a manicured portion of the ranch tends to attract the bugs and the snakes and all those things, and teaching some situational awareness is part of that specific nature activity, and showing kids the berries that they can pick, and the oak trees and the pine trees and the creeks and all those different things. It's the best job in the world. I mean, who gets to say they work at a summer camp? That's a dream job. It's like working at Disney World. Absolutely. It's huge. In our family's attitude of excellence, it causes us to take on a lot. But at the end of the day, we work at a summer camp.
Yeah, and you get a lot of reward for it. So give me the year as it breaks down. I saw some of the information that we talked about, but I mean, roughly church camp, the Brookhill Ranch begins May, but I mean, y'all start prepping for it when? When do you start bringing people in?
Well, so we kind of view our year in trimesters, because the way it breaks. And one of the weird things we do on the ranch is we view August as our January 1st type situation, because it's a new year. We just came out of camp. And so we've gone through our debrief, the things that we always ask 3 questions: what worked, what didn't work, and what was confusing. And then so we start going through those things, and we need to, on my side operations, what we need to tighten up and change. We address all those things now, and we start preparing and cleaning and changing or knocking down and adding new or adding on to facilities this time of year, so that we have items in place to then advertise for our actual new year, January 1st, when the new camp sessions go live. And we launch that January 1st. We hit somewhere around 70 to 80% in the first 20 days of January. It's a huge draw, and then the other 20% or so trickles in up into camp when people come. But we've been not overbooked, but had a waiting list for a number of years, people trying to get in. So, and going back to your questions, trying to how the year looks, we prep in August. From August all the way up into camp starting in May, we're preparing. We then host the event, which we have staff on the property May 1st. Camp is all of June, all of July. Then we're back into August and we're tearing it down. We're putting it all up. We're cleaning it all up, and we're getting ready to do it again.
Wow. So, and you said, did you say you hosted 3,000 campers this last year?
We have 3,000 campers that we host on the ranch, with parents coming in on Mondays for drop off and Saturday for closing ceremonies and pickup. And that our closing ceremonies are special because it reinforces that connection, because we don't want the kids to leave. It's not like, hey, here's little camper Dennis, come pick his bag up and get him out of here. No, and that goes back to our founder, the way we embrace and hug and get to minister kids one last time. With the parents on the property and the campers, we see about 7,000 annually.
So I guess my question is when Sally and Jim come to pick up little Dennis or whoever, and he's changed. He's a little different. What do you see? That's got to be highly rewarding.
It's unbelievably rewarding, and we've heard it for over 60 years now. The property's been here in the family over 70 years, and it's a different place. The property is unique. The property is special. There is, there are fruits of the Spirit. And the peace that surpasses understanding is on the property. And people have for years driven on the property and said, what is it about this place? And so we hear those stories throughout the year. Our influence is huge. It's huge. I can tell of personal stories of being down at Disney World and campers. We were in a 3,000 seat auditorium watching a little car thing and heard names being called and the people running up the bleachers. We've had family out of the country on family vacation in random places, and they were seen and talked about Brookhill in Australia.
Really?
The people that we, for the 60 years that camp has been here, we are seeing now the third and the fourth generation of people coming back. And there are some very serious world influencers that have come through our alumni. We've got one at the front office for the Houston Astros, and he talks about us with a great deal. We had one that was just 2 days ago appointed. It's Elizabeth Cooley with the Central Arkansas Children's Advocacy Center. The governor just appointed her to oversee some funding for abused children. And Elizabeth is a very dear friend of ours and received salvation here on the ranch, created some fun songs. So we're talking, hopefully Elizabeth 25, 30 years ago. I don't know what the timeline is, but it was a minute ago, 25, 30 years ago, that Elizabeth created some fun things that were now incorporated into our tradition of camp. And just looking at that lady alone, her influence is 10,000 a year in our fine state. Wow. And so we can go to folks that are at UCLA Med. That I had a friend of mine text from DC the other day. He was wearing a Brookhill shirt, and on the mall in DC, another national leader recognized the shirt and like, what the heck? That's Brookhill. And we hear those stories more often than not, and that is extremely rewarding, because I tell my kids and our staff, people will talk about you. It's just a matter of whether they say good or bad things. You get to choose.
One way or the other.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So you choose whether they say good or bad things.
And it dawned on me, and I apologize. I try to do the 5 mile high view and the 500 foot. We're at the 500 foot, and I love it. Let's do the 5 mile high, and that is Brookhill Ranch is basically just south of the village. Is that fair enough to say?
Correct. So if you look at the village in a real quick, crude way, the far western side, Highway 7, and the village kind of looks like a rectangle over to the east side to Highway 5. The Glazypole Gate, dead center, due south. We are due south, and we share a border with Hot Springs Village, our fence. I can tell you a family story about the village.
Yeah.
So Hetty's husband, Don, our founder, who passed just about 10 years ago, My father-in-law, Tim Brooks, who's pastor at Christian Ministries and lives here on the ranch, he told me the stories that we were riding horses. We'd leave the ranch and they would ride up, the best I can tell, somewhere north of the POA building.
Okay.
They would ride their horses up into the village up there. Hetty's backing way up. Hetty's dad owned most of that way back in the day.
Really?
Sold it to
Dirks. Yeah.
Dirks Lumber Company.
Mm-hmm.
And it was open timber. People hunted and ran their cattle in there and took horseback rides. Well, they would load up on Saturday mornings and ride up in there to somewhere just north of us. And it took 5-6 hours to ride their horses there. Hetty would bring an old Willis Jeep into what is the west gate, the front gate.
Really?
Take this old logging trail and meet them up there and bring them dinner. And he said, I can remember it like it was yesterday. My dad leaned up on a big old pile of rocks and said, boys, it'll be 10,000 years before man does anything in these woods. Oh, yeah, what happened? He said, there's no agricultural value up here. You can't hardly get in here. And this is on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And Monday morning in the Sentinel Record, it came out that John Cooper had bought that place. And he thought, oh, my God, he's going to lose his eye teeth on that. And clearly, Mr. Cooper had a great vision.
He had a great vision, but it was a lot of work between here and there. A lot of
Without
work.
a doubt.
And as I say, it's a darn good thing it's beautiful because you can't grow much here. It's all shattered chert.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So let's go to the rest of it here. So obviously the church camp is the zenith. And I wanted to ask you about Christian Ministries. We'll come back around to that in just a minute, which is a wonderful organization. But where I was going with that is that, that's not the full year. The rest of the time, it's a working ranch, right?
Absolutely. So our agricultural roots we have held on to since the beginning. There's a photo of our founder, Don Brooks, with a Hereford cow. That photo's not dated, but probably back into the 50s. The ranch started as a working Hereford cattle ranch back in 1954 when Don and Hetty moved here. Prior to that, Hetty's dad, who was a Wilson in town, he owned Wilson's Furniture, Wilson Block Company.
Oh, whoa. Wilson Radio. They had a radio station at one time.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Wilson Furniture Company. KWFM.
Really? I didn't know the call letters.
Oh, yeah. When you said that, I'm like, oh my Lord, I know where that is. Yeah.
That was her dad. And Clyde Wilson was his name.
Yep.
My understanding is about 1937 is when he bought this property. It was bought after the Depression so that he would have a place to take his family and do something if a Depression type event ever hit. He said we could milk cows, we could fish, we could hunt, we could have something to provide for our family. And now all these years later, we provide for our family on this ranch and have done it for 3 generations. So Don and Hetty were the first. My in-laws, Tim and Terry Brooks, were the second. Me and my wife, Tim and Terry's oldest daughter, and my brother-in-law, David, and his wife, Melissa, we're 3rd generation. We now run the organization, and we provide a living to our family and minister to a lot of people the things that we do off of the ranch, which is a lot.
Are they hiring for your position? Because it sounds like a lot of fun, but it also sounds like it never stops.
It never stops. And, there is a mentality. There is, because we live at the office. Mm-hmm. We live on the ranch. And there's been many a times that I've poured a cup of coffee and stepped up to the window to look out, and the horses were out in the hayfield. Yeah. Or the cows were in the hayfield, or the village PD calls at 3 a.m., or the Garland County Sheriff calls at 5 a.m. and there's been a car crash and someone broke our fence and you got livestock out. So it is the funnest job in the world. It is the most rewarding job that you will ever do. And it is the hardest thing you will ever do.
Never stops.
And so it never stops. And I've been married and with the family for 18 years, associated with the family for 28, and I'm still here.
Well, and we need to go through the technicals real quick. So you're the chief operating officer of Brookhill Ranch, and you've done that for how many years?
The title was given 18 years ago.
Yeah. And
it started in the bottom of a tool bag, because the only way to know the property and all the secrets and the ins and the outs is you have to learn from the absolute bottom. And so it was probably about 10 years ago, moving to an active role of running staff and having, taking care of everything that's on the operations side, which is huge.
Including the 25-acre lake.
We have the 25-acre lake. So the ranch is 520 acres.
Okay.
We have about 30 acres used for hay production. The rest of it is forested and then open pasture for cattle and horses. We have 21 quarter horses that we have to take care of, feed, provide their foot care, their oral care, their veterinarian care, their feed, their grasses in the good time of the year, and then the grasses in the frozen times of the year. So good quality hay. We have, going back to the ranch's roots, which was not intentional. My wife and I got into the cattle business and wound up with Herefords, which I absolutely love. It's the red and white cattle folks may see as they drive by. That is one of the hardest things that you'll do, but also the most therapeutic. Those cows are
sweet,
tame like.
They're sweet. They're known for part of them's known for their disposition. They're the Labrador Retriever of cattle, as I understand.
They are very docile breed, and every single one of them you can rub on and scratch on. Which Wagyu beef out of Japan is known because the Japanese give those cows massages.
Really?
And they give those cows beer, and so they really focus to relax that cow. And that's as close as we can get. We don't give massages, we don't give beer, but boy, we treat them really, really good. So in just a commercial cow-calf operation, you don't have a bunch of crazy wild cows. And then when a select few of those go to harvest, they make for unbelievable tender beef. So going back to your question, 520 acres, bunch of ag stuff, tons of equipment, and it's we maintain the earth, we maintain the land.
Man. So let's come back to the cattle for a minute ago. You something I saw, 21-day aged beef. What are you doing here? What is this?
So on the beef side, whenever if you go to a nice restaurant like 501 Prime, you go to one of these $high restaurants, they're going to actively advertise their beef aging time.
Right. Sure.
And you can take a cow. You and I could go down right now and harvest a cow and eat it tonight. It would, and if it's a beef grade cow, it's going to be good beef.
Yeah.
If you can let that thing hang in a freezer for at least 21 days, it's not a freezer, it's a cold refrigerator, then you're allowing that dry age process to take place. It breaks down membrane. It allows that beef to do what it was designed to do. Then when you turn that portion of the cow into ribeyes, prime rib, strips, all the things you would harvest off a cow, the beef is unbelievably tender. And with our attitude of excellence, I didn't want to raise beef that was not in an excellent category. So if you, the consumer, show up, we go palms up. We tell you the mother, the father, number of days it was on the ranch, what it was fed. Here's the nutritionist phone number. When it was provided care, here's the vet's phone number. When it was hauled to harvest, the place it was harvested, there's the meat inspector's phone number. You can tour the meat inspecting facility. And so many consumers want to know that answer.
Yeah.
If you go to a grocery store and pick up a T-bone and say, where's this from? There's not an answer to it. But if you looked at mine and said, hey, Mike, where's this T-bone from? I can answer all those questions.
Well, it's like, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Carl Benz said of Mercedes-Benz that he named for his daughter, Carl Benz says the best or nothing at all.
Absolutely.
So why would you go that way? I can't. I tell you what, Mike, it's clear to me. I appreciate this opportunity to chat. Would you come back and chat with us more at some time?
Absolutely.
Man, I'd love it. And I want to come back and just kind of wrap up. Your comment, which I loved, was that, this was put together some 60 or 70 years ago. Well, the village has just been here roughly 50 years and in any form or fashion. What's it like for your family to watch the village growing like this and come to what it is today?
I think it's unbelievable because clearly Hot Springs Village is the largest community outside of our city at 14,000 residents. The village is a national attraction as well. And I have visited with people in the past in explaining who the ranch is and where they are. And typically two things come up when they recognize the Hot Springs area, and that's Oak Lawn and Hot Springs Village.
Right.
Oh, I've been to the races. Oh, I've played golf in Hot Springs Village. And so to be sandwiched between both of those and say, oh, well, then you've passed us. You know exactly who we are and where we are at. And it is continuing to be impressive watching the village grow, watching the things outside of the gates grow, the vision, the plan. The gentleman that runs the organization now, I watched his podcast with you guys. I loved everything he said. A transitional leader, dynamic, all the experience he brought. I think that's great movement for the village, and look forward to what he and his predecessors do. It's a great organization.
Yeah, I think so too. And thanks. One last question for this interview, if we can, because I want to come back around and hit you up again here. So I know as a guy, and I'm like you, I in some ways, I've got several businesses out of the same office. I love my home, I love my area, I love where I work, but it never stops. So I've got a getaway. And one of my getaways, we love Fort Mountain up in the National Forest, Iron Springs, places like that. Where's your getaway? Where do you run when you want to just get a few minutes of really, really quiet? Usually
it's out of the time zone.
Really?
So, yeah, because I've got to be able to use for my own mental health. I've got to be able to be pretty disconnected from the process.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a lot of quit in us.
Yeah.
I've got a great story of getting a track hose stuck yesterday. I was driving the track.
Personally, you know the guy who did it, right? You know the guy who did it.
Oh, I called for a bulldozer to pull me out. And he said, "Are you that bad stuck?" I said, "Oh, yeah. No, it's not halfway. What did you expect? I'm going to go halfway and quit and go home." So with that, it can lead to some workaholic type of tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to maintain the fact that I am married to my high school sweetheart, I have the two best kids on the planet. And to give them attention, I have to disconnect and get out of Arkansas. And so we may go to Destin to the beach, or may go over to Denver or something and get out of the time zone. And it causes us to be very intentional in our training of our staff, so that when we leave, we tell them to ask the question, is this an impossible wall? The item that you just got to, and I don't believe in impossible walls. That's
sure
what has led our families. We'll go over it, we'll go under it, we'll go around it, we'll bulldoze it and get on the other side and rebuild the wall. But impossible walls don't exist for certain personalities. So in training our staff, hey guys, I'm going to be gone a couple days. So if y'all would hold the fort down, if you get to an impossible wall, please call. But if you ask yourself, is this impossible? And the answer is no, then I'd ask you to continue to focus on it and produce the right answer.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. But, and you're growing leaders too, because,
absolutely.
What's the quote? Ships are always safe in harbor, but that's not what ships are built for.
Absolutely. And with camp, jumping back to camp, in order to put a leader in a cabin and over activities and all the things safety is huge, huge. It's paramount and number one. In order for you, the parent, to drive up and to kick your kid out and give us a peace sign and say, "Hey, thanks, y'all watch." The first question I'm going to ask as a parent is, who's this guy?
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be a nonverbal communication there of, I don't trust this person, or yes, I do. And so we build leaders very intentionally. And if we redo the interview, the depth that we go to find staffers and develop staffers over years, like dozens of years, leads to excellent leaders, because they have the heart, they have the vision.
That may be another show right there. I mean, because honestly, everybody has bad days. I get it. Okay.
Sure.
But you've got to know that whoever you're dropping your kid off with is going to be a stable, secure they are who they are today as who they were last year when we interviewed them, and the year before, and so and so and so and so. That's got to be paramount, doesn't it?
It's paramount. And when you as a parent come and drop your kid off with a cabin counselor, for example, that cabin counselor at a minimum has been involved with us 9 to 10 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Many times are they graduates of the camp itself?
It's a prerequisite.
Is it really? You
You
got
have
to
to have
be
come to you well because of the tradition.
Yeah.
If you pull up in the middle of camp and we're singing our silly songs and we're working on the fun, we're working on the connection, and there are we have a canteen time when the kids all go and buy the snacks and the sugar and the Cokes and the things their parents don't want them to have, and they're going to fishing derby, or they have a shaving cream hairdo for a punishment because they lost the fishing derby. If all of these weird things, if you see them randomly, they look weird. But if you see them through the sequence of camp, and you started camp as a third grader, and then you came all the way through graduation, then you went through our intern program as a junior counselor, by the time you get into a cabin, you've been on the ranch about 10 years. We have leaders, LC's lead counselors, that help facilitate admin's vision because it's a large organization, and those folks have been with us about 15 years.
In the word that I heard is that, everybody wants to have fun. Okay, I got it. But it has to be inside these parameters. We can't be this crazy, and we can't be this, and we can't whatever. I'm hearing that a lot of this, because safety is a big thing, of course, but there's actually a safety net under the kids too. Well, you're gonna have a shaving cream hairdo as a punishment, but we're joking. It's a soft punishment type of thing. And everybody laughs and we all grin, but there's got to be a safety net underneath that, right?
That's right. And, our founder, Hetty Lou Brooks, I had an observation this summer. It was not an impossible wall. The staffer was just a little at a roadblock and didn't know what to do. I said, go back to our founder. Do you think Hetty Lou Brooks would be denied? She would literally dive off in that lake in her dress. And I said, so what can we do to facilitate the fun and make the fun happen? And so we protect all of that. Her vision was to laugh at yourself. If she always said, if you rip your pants, don't make a big deal out of it. Just say, oh, I've got air conditioning. And so to minimize my brother-in-law, David Pate, our chief executive, he says all the time, NBD, no big deal. No big deal. It's no big deal. NBD. Puts it in text and whatnot.
I think we need more Headies, don't we?
Oh, without a doubt.
What a classic line.
Without a doubt.
I love that line. I love that line. And my mom's that kind too. I heard one where I heard laughter of any sort is the release of fear. If you can laugh at yourself, then you're not afraid of the situation. It diffuses it. It's more comfortable. It's just what it is, right?
Absolutely. And again, on the fun side, camp doesn't make sense to the outsider passing through for 5 minutes, but for us, we get to embrace the silly. We have a 4th of July, during our 2-week session, we have a Christmas parade. We do Christmas in July up here at the ranch, and we have big blow up animal or big blow up inflatables, and we do a parade. It's the real deal. It's the attitude of excellence, but it's the silly. It's the fun. You'll see camp counselors with big, tall, clown-style socks up to their calves and an inflatable inner tube around their waist and a little hat with a propeller on the top, singing and dancing and messing around. And outside of, if you saw that walking down Central Avenue, you'd be like, oh my God, check this out. But at camp, you can get it pulled off and everybody's singing and dancing and playing, and it helps with that silly and break down those walls. Dude, come have a good time, just be a kid, play, be silly.
Laughter is the social lubricant. And for kids to see older kids doing that and going, well, they don't have to be so nervous. They can be goofy. They can play with us. It's not that big a deal. That relaxes.
That's exactly right. Well, and before I even moved to Arkansas in 1992, I started by coming to camp, and this, if anybody knows me, they know I'm not patronizing at all. I'm pretty direct as a cowboy, and just the way we are, we call spades spades.
Sure.
However, some of the greatest heroes in my life are on this ranch.
Really?
Oh my God. I've got to be careful or I'll have an emotional response to it. I can think about them now. And they are, to this day, excellent people. Excellent people.
Easy to have an attitude of excellence if it's been modeled to you. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Don and Hetty starting it, and me having interaction with them and marrying into the family and hearing more vision at the kitchen table and in private drives and those things allow us to now, in the third generation, make sure that we are protecting the legacy, and we are using that torch that was passed from Don and Hetty to Tim and Terry, that they have now passed to us. We use that torch to illuminate the way, not burn things up. And so they were very intentional in transferring vision to us. And without a doubt, we have the same vision. I was recently in Washington, D.C. last number of months on some cattle business. And when I came back, Hetty didn't know I was there. And I wanted to report that story to her. And she's been very involved on many levels in our fine state, including politics. And I came back and told her, I said, hey, I don't think you knew I went to D.C. last week. And I told her the story. And I said, here's what I wanted you to know. If no one in that town mentioned the name of Jesus, Brookhill did. Because in front of these people, the delegation from our fine state, I would make sure they knew that our vision is fun, connection, and Jesus. And that doesn't change. No matter who, whether it be family, because we don't know who God's next appointed is to run the organization. So it may be family, it may not be, but that our core values of connecting, of having a good time, and providing salvation to people is what this organization does.
I love it. I love it. So tell me, if somebody is listening to this and they say, man, I'd love for my kids to come here, I'd love to be involved, how do we do that, Mike?
Best thing to do is go on the website, brookhillranch.com. Our most recent event is going to be in October, which is our fall market. They can see that. It allows the community to come out. We support 60, 70 local vendors, food trucks, Clampets, Melinda's, Riverside will be out here. A lot of local vintage, well, not local, they're statewide vintage boutiques and whatnot. It's a great time for the community to see the ranch. Then all the summer camp information everything is on the website. We have a massive, massive team that facilitates our website and our social media, and they keep it updated all the time. And I think we just released summer camp dates. I think it was yesterday.
For 2024?
For 2024.
Well, let me ask one more thing, and brookhillranch.com. This will probably be coming out next Friday. We'll probably be doing this the 8th or so. That said, when's the event in October, and why don't we do another show right before that, if you don't mind?
We can. It's October 20th and 21st. It's a Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
And if the listeners know where the Glazy Po gate is going towards Walmart, that gate overlooks our pond. Yep. And so as the crow flies, it's less than a mile. If you drive around beside Glazy Po Baptist Church and the cemetery and the narrow road, the county judge has got some vision to widen that road and replace the bridge.
But it's so pretty. It's so pretty.
It is.
I know, but it's dangerous.
It is. And, you know, I drive a 3/4 ton big diesel truck because of the ag requirements we have. And it's parking lots have not adjusted as the vehicles have adjusted in society. So it just, the vehicles have gotten bigger, passing back and forth. And because of the growth of the village, the growth of 7 North, the addition of Walmart, the paving of East Glazy Po, all of these things in this area, it's now a safety issue for our community to widen that road and that bridge and facilitate water and all those things.
And that bridge, I think, honestly, those of you that have not been to this area and you're from I'm using air quotes, the city, I think you need to drive down that road for one time, just so you can see what it's like to share a 1-lane bridge on a significant road. Yeah.
And if they may interact with us. We have all of the ag equipment is huge.
Yeah, sure.
And so if we're heading back that way to maintain that side of the ranch, I've got F350s and Ford 550s and 15-foot batwing mowers. And when we come down the road, we just own it.
Yeah.
And
you have no other option.
Oh, we're just driving thinking, oh man, I'm sorry, sir. Sorry, but you need to back up. I'm stuck. We got this big piece of equipment and my only option is to get to the other side and turn around.
And you would be my impossible wall if you don't back up.
Well, we just park. We just park. And occasionally we've had horses on that road or cattle on that road. And our neighbors may see us in the middle of the road with sorting sticks and flags and trying to pause and run cattle beside their car or up into the pastures. And so you may encounter a little rodeo coming down that road too.
You could. So now, and no tickets required, free entertainment, right?
It's $5 at the gate, and then there's 70 different. On this, yeah. On the cattle, yeah.
Yeah, if the cattle are loose on the road, it's no charge, no admission.
Yeah, as the community goes about their local business, and they're like, "What? Check these guys out! They're in the middle of the road with cows." You know,
is there a farm around here? Yeah, there's a farm around here. Yeah, it's been here before we got here,
and the road is named after us.
Exactly, Mike. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you next time. I'm going to book you here in just a second. But for Hot Springs Village Inside Out, I'm Dennis Simpson. He's Mike Milligan. Thank you, buddy.
Thanks, Dennis.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching and listening to Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a weekly podcast starring Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Visit the website at hotspringsvillageinsideout.com.